4 people were killed in 1 week. Prime Minister Perry Christie blasts lending institutions in the country, and the Bahamas' immigration policy takes on a new round of criticisms. We've got those stories and a whole lot more. I'm your host, Krishna Virgil, and this is the Tribune's Top 5. Following an outbreak of scabies, 2 government schools had to be shut down this week.
Extermination efforts were underway this week in 2 government schools after several students tested positive for scabies. The first school with the reported cases was the D.W. Davis School. Education Director Lionel Sands announced that all operations at the school were suspended until Wednesday, when a thorough extermination effort was expected to end. Mr. Sands said 5 students of the junior high school contracted the contagious skin infection and added that the ministry had taken every precaution to prevent the spread of the infection. He noted, however, that the infection was not contracted on the school's grounds. The T.A. Thompson School was the second school to close after 1 student tested positive. Ministry of Education officials said that operations at T.A. Thompson would be suspended and several students would be screened after administrators identified that a student at the school had the infection. The T.A. Thompson student is a sibling of one of the D.W. Davis students who tested positive for scabies. According to Mr. Sands, in addition to that 1 confirmed case, there were several suspected other cases at the school. Police are investigating the deaths of 4 people who were murdered this week. Over the weekend, a 31-year-old mother of 3 was found dead in her villa in Georgetown, Exuma, and a man was fatally shot in Fox Hill on Sunday night. Their deaths came the day after an elderly man was stabbed in a home in Grand Bahama in what police believe was a family dispute. In the Exuma incident, police had taken the woman's 37-year-old husband into custody at the time. However, a man has since been arraigned before the courts in connection with the case. Police have not officially identified the victim, but the Tribune understands she is Latovia Vincent, a manageress at the Four Seasons Resort in Exuma. Police also reported that a man was shot while in the area of Blueberry Hill Road off Fox Hill Road. He was found in his car with a gunshot wound and pronounced dead at the scene. Later in the week, in the early morning hours of Tuesday, a man was fatally shot while visiting a friend in Bamboo Town. It was just hours before his 28th birthday.
Prime Minister Perry Christie this week minced no words for local banks as he accused them of breeding a culture of modern-day slavery.
Prime Minister Perry Christie accused lending institutions of cajoling and sweet-talking customers into signing personal loans for things that they cannot afford. The Prime Minister said banks and other lending institutions were getting richer by imposing excessive interest rates on customers driven by a high volume of employees with salary deductions. To combat this, Mr. Christie appealed to bank executives to work with the government to bring a new Consumer Lending Act to Parliament. He said successive administrations had failed to pass the legislation despite promising to do so. He was speaking during the Royal Fidelity Bahamas Economic Outlook Conference in the Crown Ballroom at the Atlantis Resort. He said, quote, "We are now in an age of growing economic slavery driven by excessive, unmanageable personal debt. There is simply too much personal debt that is being taken on by too many people in our country. Banks and other lending institutions are getting richer, particularly with the excessive interest rates that are being charged by some. It is turning too many people in our country into what I characterize, while I am making the point, into modern-day slaves," end quote. Mr. Christie said he was disappointed that banks would not support young entrepreneurs but choose to lend money for vacations and furniture, among other things. Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival Commission Chairman Paul Major yesterday defended the inaugural festival from critics who argue it would lead to social degradation and said it was an undeserving indictment to say that Bahamians can conduct themselves in a festive atmosphere. Mr. Major also questioned the commercial viability of the existing Junkanoo product, saying the traditional Junkanoo model has no economic benefit for the country. He called it a net expense to the government, Junkanoo stakeholders, and participants. He also said an announcement on the festival's lineup of local entertainers would be delivered next week, while the announcement of the Grammy Award-winning international artist would come shortly thereafter. According to published reports, the government is trying to nail down Barbadian singer Rihanna as Carnival's main act.
The Christie administration's newest immigration restriction on school children reignited a firestorm of criticisms this week.
Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell found himself yet again defending immigration policies after it was announced that all non-Bahamian students, even those born in the Bahamas to immigrant parents, must have a student permit for the fall semester or a passport with a residency stamp. He stressed that they were in accordance with the Immigration Act and a part of the Christie administration's wider policies. The announcement has come under heavy scrutiny from political observers, local human rights activists, and was highlighted as a tough policy in the Saturday edition of the New York Times. Some observers have said that the requirement will make it harder for children of immigrants to access education. Amnesty International officials have expressed concerns that the policy could violate international laws. Former Education Minister Desmond Bannister also weighed in, saying the requirement was morally reprehensible. He condemned the move as contrary to the moral obligation of the government to provide every possible opportunity for children to obtain education free of charge and encouraging a literate society.
Want to get in on the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com. Like us on Facebook at the Tribune News Network. Send us a tweet at Tribune242 or subscribe to our YouTube page, Tribune242.